Hello friends and welcome back to Diablo 2 Golden Ticket. If you missed the first video, please boop that link in the description and check it out before you proceed, as it introduces our central character and also the series itself. I've included a couple other helpful links in the description actually, one for my whole Diablo 2 playlist, and one for an episode from my Diablo 1 series, which is truthfully not great, but contains crucial lore connected to Act 1 of Diablo 2, especially this episode. Also for this episode, I'm doing my first ever giveaway. The first person to notice and comment on a certain editing trick I did that I'm super proud of, I will buy you a free copy of Diablo 2 Resurrected, or if you have it already, some similarly priced game. In this episode, we're going to dig in a little bit more to the basics of how the game works. But more importantly, we're going to introduce you and Isendra to Xul the Necromancer, a character I think you'll love absolutely to death. Xul is not quite as old as he looks here, but he's definitely old enough to be Isendra's father. Doesn't stop him from being pretty ripped, though. Necromancers largely come from the southern swamps, the lore says, so I'm guessing that's here-ish on the map. Not far from the Zann Esu clan, actually. Both he and Isendra had to make it through the Rogue Pass to get here, so they must have both been here before it fell. Necromancers are all about the balance between dark and light. I think he came all this way because of rumors of the balance being disrupted in Tristram.
All who oppose me, beware.
Given that he's followed virtually the same path as Isendra, I get the idea that he keeps hearing about her, this young woman who's so ambitious and active and doing all these things to help. He finds himself more and more intrigued because he himself is more thoughtful and reactive. He is, of course, concerned about what's going on at the Rogue Monastery, but because of his own specialized talents, right now he's particularly concerned about the state of the local burial grounds. Isendra, meanwhile, is just getting this news.
My rogue scouts have just reported an abomination in the monastery graveyard. Apparently, Andariel is not content to take only our living. Bloodraven, one of our finest captains in the battle against Diablo at Tristram, was also one of the first to be corrupted by Andariel. Now you'll find her in the monastery graveyard, raising our dead as zombies. We cannot abide this defilement. If you are truly our ally, you will help us destroy her.
Bloodraven is none other than Morena, our rogue from last series. See episode 7.
Death has done nothing to weaken Bloodraven's combat skills. If anything, she's more deadly than ever.
Isendra's been trying to get an idea of the Sisterhood's endgame here.
If we could only find out how Andariel has managed to corrupt our sisters, then perhaps we could drive out the evil clouding their minds.
Isendra likes that idea, but it remains to be seen if it's even possible. Okay, see how it says I completed Den of Evil in a previous game? Previous game just means before the last time I saved and exited. Doing that respawns everything, and in online mode it even redraws the map. Really punishes you for needing a break. Charcy has always been a bit friendlier to Isendra than Kasia has.
Bloodraven was the leader of a rogue band that once fought Diablo at Tristram.
So what is Kasia's deal exactly?
Oh, Kasia's fantastic. Sure, she's a little hard on outsiders, but who can blame her? All she wants is to protect our order. But now that our sisters have turned against us, I think this whole mess has hardened her heart.
I love that they're all very respectful here about Morena's new name choice. She must have come back from killing Diablo like, I'm Bloodraven now, and her sisters immediately accepted this. Isendra checks in with Akara.
Bloodraven fought valiantly against Diablo in the catacombs beneath Tristram. She was never quite the same afterwards. It is now obvious she brought an evil influence back with her.
But everyone in this camp is trustworthy, right?
To be honest, I have done my best to stay clear of Gede. He wears dishonesty about himself like a cloak, and seeks only to better his situation by preying on the misfortunes of others.
Now, Isendra has never had the slightest interest in talking to Gede, But now that Akara has advised her not to, she sort of can't resist. Meanwhile, Geed takes one look at the elegant sorceress wandering through this ragged camp and assumes she must value the finer things.
Good day to you, partner. I'm Geed, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp. A spare weapon, some gold, a small gem is all I want in exchange for the equipment you'll need on whatever quest you might undertake. No, don't be shy. All of my items are guaranteed for life and come with a 2-day warranty.
So he expects her to have a 2-day lifespan? She asks him about Bloodraven.
I'm sorry. The undead are bad for trade. I have a strict no-return policy.
No return. Yeah, okay, she gets it. His wares are all on the pricey side, and Isendra is not as wealthy as she looks, so nope. Isendra heads to the cold plains, where the burial grounds are supposed to be. The only rogues she finds are not exactly buried. And now she's about to have her first encounter with a live corrupted rogue, and she'll discover that these gals are definitely not just in a bad mood. An interesting detail I noticed is that the color of the vapor that leaves their bodies when they die is exactly the same sort of pale teal color that Aiden was flinging around in the Act 1 cinematic. Nice consistency of art direction. Also, apparently demonic energies are a very pretty color. Isendra doesn't find burial grounds, but she does find something arguably more important. What I'm headcanoning as an ancient waypoint marker, placed long ago by the Haradrim. She knows what it is and how to activate it, allowing her to teleport to other active nearby markers. Unfortunately, this one is being stalked by a gargantuan. Ding! Okay, so we're at level 5 now, which of course looks like a 6 in that crazy legacy font. That means another 5 points of vitality. But here's where we do something a little counterintuitive with our talent tree, which is to say, we do nothing. We're going to save that point until level 6, when we can get both Frost Nova and Static Field. I honestly haven't figured out the point of Static Field yet, but that's what the guide says, so Static Field it is. Xul, meanwhile, has no trouble finding the burial grounds. He can sense the disturbed dead a mile away.
Too many empty graves.
He's not like Isendra. He's not the type to just go charging into a situation. He takes some time to get the lay of the land and determine the strength of the undead that are infesting the place. What is he throwing at those skeletons? I'm so glad you asked. Teeth. I actually love the Icy Veins leveling table because it reads like teeth, 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 teeth. Xul has a wand that raises skeletons. Raise skeleton is not in the leveling guide, but I love it, so I make sure he has a wand that gives him points in it. I mean, look how fun that is. Whee! Look at him go. The great and sometimes chaotic thing about skellies is they aggressively seek out new enemies. Xul just kind of follows them. The guide recommends points in Clay Golem. It's got a lot more health and attack rating than the Skellies do. But I say, why not both? Between them and his mercenary, who you can hear running around wildly in the background, Xul is basically a small army. The mercenary is a bit of a spoiler, but I will explain that later. Charcy offers gear repairs.
Good to see you.
Like Griswold did in Diablo 1, but with a much better interface. She sells mundane weapons and ammo. As in Diablo 1, all merchants change their inventories constantly, so you should keep checking. In this game, it seems to change every time you blink. I've come back to the same vendor without even zoning out, and found they had different stuff suddenly. So if you see something you love and you have the money, buy it now. Here's the repair button. Sometimes you'll find socketed stuff, and gems can be looted that you stick in those sockets to customize the piece. What I've been doing with the gems I've looted is saving them for now, but not in my precious, precious tiny inventory. You have a stash in camp that has a personal tab for your character and a shared tab that all your characters can access. I never know for sure who will want what gem when, so I just dump them all in here and share between my guys as needed. I also like to save higher level potions if I happen to loot any. Akara doesn't sell the bigger potions, but the smallest ones are sufficient at this character level, so I stash the bigger ones just in case I start needing them before I can buy them. Another shared tab I use is for class-specific equipment my guys can't use. I've stashed a preserved head here that someone picked up because it has +1 to raise skeleton, which means +1 skelly. And I've got other cool stuff for my other guys when it's their turn. Okay, let's test out this preserved head and see if it works like I think it's gonna. On our way out, let's stop by Akara's.
Good day.
You can sell anything to anyone, as I demonstrate here, but mostly I sell Akara the kind of stuff she sells, and same with Charcy, so that I remember to visit both of them for repairs and scrolls. The best thing Akara has is these tomes. You can store up to 20 scrolls in them, and they only take up 2 inventory slots. So any scrolls you loot or buy, you can just stick in there, sort of a bag inside a bag. This is great, because I cannot emphasize enough how fast your inventory fills up in this game. The weapons Akara sells are more magical in nature. Necromancer wands, sorcerer's staves, and so on. Inventory Tetris is a thing in this game, just as it was in Diablo 1. So much stuff drops, and your bag is so small. You end up burning a lot of town portal scrolls, or choosing what to leave on the ground. Okay, let's head out with my small army and see if I can recruit one more. A brief note, this footage you're watching is of online mode. I'm going to talk more about online versus offline mode a little bit later. Look, he's actually carrying the head. Let's see it in res mode. Wow, literally just a jar with a head floating in it. Necromancers are creepy. Now to make a body. Who wants to die? While the skeletons you raise look human, you can actually raise just about any dead thing to create them. Remember last series I mentioned that necromancers can mix and match bones as needed? That definitely seems to be reflected in the game mechanics. Voila! 3 skellies! Check out my army now. I have very little control over any of these guys, but still they're very helpful. Let's take a look in resurrected mode. Ah, Xul, you never travel alone. I imagine he doesn't have a lot of live friends given his occupation. Maybe it comforts him to have the illusion of company on his travels. Anyway, Xul's been keeping his ear to the ground in camp, and he knows that the young sorceress Isendra was looking for the monastery burial grounds. So Xul goes back to camp and waits for Isendra to return from her own explorations. He approaches her, and at first she's wary. He's a man, and he's a necromancer. But his soft-spoken and surprisingly compassionate nature quickly sets her at ease. She tells him that she's feeling frustrated that no one but Akara seems to accept her here, even though she cleared out a whole cave full of demons and undead. She believes that if she kills Blood Raven, they'll finally give her information that will help her defeat Andariel.
Is that enough to earn the rogue's trust?
Isendra has to hope so. She follows Xul's directions and just after dawn makes her way to the burial grounds. Little does she know, Xul came there before sunrise to set up watch and make sure that she's alright. Okay, you see this mausoleum here? On almost every map in the game there are these little subzones, usually caves or crypts or something else underground like that. They're easy to ignore if you get focused on quest completion, because other than the Den of Evil, none of them are really necessary. But the items and experience you can get are pretty important if you don't want to get in over your head later in the game. I suggest running through every zone and subzone and completely clearing it at least once before moving on. If things start to seem too hard at any point in the game, you can do what you couldn't do in Diablo 1 and repeat zones and subzones to get more equipment and experience. Within each of these underground subzones, there is at least one thing you should look for, even if you decide not to kill every creep in the place. Somewhere toward the end of the map is going to be a sparkly chest. Unlike the other chests you find lying around all over above ground, these chests generally have very good loot in them. Multiple magic items, high-level potions, and so forth. Also, often there will be a unique enemy guarding the chests, which is yet another source of great loot. So all in all, I highly encourage you to poke every little cave, hole, crypt, or other subzone you come across.
I am overburdened.
Okay, back to the burial grounds. The grounds are full of undead, but Isendra tells herself if she just lures them to the edges a few at a time, she can keep from becoming overwhelmed. As she ventures further in, Bloodraven appears and taunts her.
My army will destroy you.
That lady is fast. Isendra quickly begins to see the flaw in her plan. She can't kill all the undead minions before taking out Bloodraven, because Bloodraven just keeps raising new ones. Who knows how many sisters have been buried here over the years? A lot. Isendra is going to have to focus on Bloodraven herself and cut off the source of this endless army of zombies. Back at camp, Kasha suggested that Bloodraven is herself undead at this point.
I am overburdened.
Though we know for a fact that Morena was already corrupted by Andariel and or Diablo toward the end of her life. How those two things are connected exactly, canon doesn't say.
Not enough mana.
But since Bloodraven's not a mindless zombie like the others, I like the idea that she willingly offered herself as a sacrifice. Even in life, our Morena was ambitious and competitive, so it makes sense that she'd want a special status among the undead in exchange for what was left of her soul. Isendra's new ice staff helps slow Bloodraven down some, but Isendra's still barely making a dent in her, and she just keeps raising more corpses. While Isendra fights the summoned corpses that surround her, Bloodraven regenerates. This goes on and on. Night slowly falls, and Bloodraven is still harrying Isendra like a one-woman pack of wolves. Isendra may not be able to hold out long enough to see it through. Just as she crumples, exhausted to her knees, Xul rushes in from the other side of the cemetery. He's not about to watch Bloodraven slaughter Isendra. Now here's a foe Bloodraven finds intriguing. Such strength, and they have so much in common. He would make a much better minion than Isendra, and so she turns her attention on him.
Join my army of the dead.
His own minions can tie up Bloodraven's raised dead while he continues to hurl a barrage of barbed teeth at her, preventing her from regenerating. Isendra, bleeding and barely conscious, watches this surreal fight in a sort of daze. The only way she can tell which corpses are on whose side is by watching who they attack. It's nightmarish, but at the same time, there's something heroic about Xul's relentless onslaught. Isendra has a sinking feeling that she isn't going to get to be the hero of the day after all.
I need mana.
Finally, he finishes her off.
Bloodraven. Rest well.
As soon as Bloodraven is laid to rest, Xul rushes to offer Isendra a healing potion. Go tell the sisters what you did. But you killed her. No, I only finished what you spent all day accomplishing and ensured that you'd survive to tell of it. So Isendra does go back, and she does take full credit.
I can hardly believe that you've defeated Bloodraven.
Why? Did someone say something? What have you heard?
Though she was once my closest friend, I pray that her tortured spirit remains banished forever. You have earned my respect, stranger, and the allegiance of the rogues. I have placed several of my best warriors at your disposal.
She did it. She earned their trust. And that is how you get a little sightless eye friend to accompany you on your adventures henceforward. Isendra admits to Xul that she may not be able to do this on her own. You won't have to, he says. I don't have your need for glory, but I am happy to walk in your shadow. I sense the seeds of greatness in you. Isendra never really had much in the way of a father figure. She's not used to having men around her at all, but after what Xul just did for her, she can't help but trust him and feels slightly humbled by him, so she gladly accepts his help. Next episode, we're in for a treat. Isendra meets a potential rival as the Amazon Cassia leads a mission to rescue someone Diablo fans know very well. I hope you'll stay a while and listen.